Hello everybody and welcome back to Pravus Gaming and more oxygen not included. Why are we on the main menu? You might be asking, what the heck? What happened to the disastrous ant farm? Well, I'm sad to say the disastrous ant farm is no more because on March 15th, Oxygen Not Included added in a new major patch to the game, which is available to those who opt into the beta on Steam, the thermal upgrade as they call it. And I found out about this the day after I finished recording those two videos, and I thought, well, I'm going to go ahead and upload those two videos anyway, knowing that they're going to get outdated because it still does a pretty good job of laying out the base mechanics of the game and kind of your early start and stuff like that. Still seems reasonable, knowing full well that come this video, we were going to have to scrap it and start over. Sure enough, that's what we're going to do. But there are some new features that we're going to look at, so hopefully I can make it up for you guys. Namely, we do have new ice biomes, which is pretty fun, space heaters, liquid tepidizers, and textile factory buildings. Haven't played with any of those yet. Will be interesting to see what happens there. Some new plants, some new duplicant temperature sensitivity and diseases, which might mean that medicine is more important than it used to be. Buildings are now able to overheat, and pipes can burst and circuits can overload. Personally, I sort of suspect that these are mechanics added into the game mostly to combat the kind of cheaty, game-breaking builds that some people were using in the previous version of the game. This kind of invalidates most of that in this particular run-through. So, how this is going to change with the main strategy, I'm not too sure yet. It's going to be interesting, but let's go ahead and start up a new colony and see what we can do. Okay, I think this is the crew that we are going to run with today. We got Marie, May, and Turner. Some pretty good art, some pretty good learning, a bit of strength across the board, which I actually do think is more important than I gave it credit for in the past. It increases your carrying capacity, which is very good for delivering stuff, and as far as I'm aware, there is no reliable way to increase strength over time, as in get experience and level up, so strength is actually kind of important for your early game characters. But otherwise, yeah, not too bad, some mild decor expectations, but with an artist, I think we'll be fine. And I'm going to go ahead and name this the Frigid Ant Farm. Hopefully we find some ice biomes. Let's take a look at this map seed. Alright, so far, right off the bat, I am seeing a lot of oxygen. The question is there a lot of water? Let's take a look-see. Alright, 2 water reservoirs over there. A couple small ones here. And that's about it. Most of these pockets have some oxygen in them, except for, yeah, no, it's not bad as far as oxygen is concerned. A little bit less water than I think I was hoping for. The last seed was really amazing for us, but this will definitely work for us, I think. One thing I'll draw your attention to right off the bat is you're going to see that there is a lot more vegetation in this particular version of the game than there was before. I do think they increased the spawn rate partly because they did change a bit of how farming works, specifically with mealwood. And I'll go over some of that stuff a little bit later in the video, but for now, what I'm going to do is go ahead and start building on my base, kind of like I did before. And I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead until we're about at the same point where we were last time, with some very basic research, kind of getting ready on some farms and stuff like that. Rather than make you guys watch the early game again, it's pretty much unchanged, so we might as well just skip forward. So, yeah, stand by, and I will be right back. Alright, at this point we've more or less gotten to the same place we were last time, so, nothing really especially different, except I've kind of really expanded a lot in this particular setup. Set up some farms already. I did leave one planter box open, though, because I do want to talk a little bit about farming, because this has rather substantially changed up food in the game. So, they've changed mealwood quite a bit. It used to be with mealwood that you could get about 3 harvests, right? So it would grow, you'd harvest it, it'd grow again. You could do that 3 times. And then you would get a seed. It would kind of fall apart, you get a seed, you have to plant it, and it would grow up all over again, right? So it's pretty sustainable because you always had a good supply of seeds ready to go. No longer is this the case. Once mealwood has been planted, you will get 3 harvests out of it, and then the seed is gone. As far as I'm aware, unless something's changed, but as far as I'm aware, the seed is gone. This is no longer a very sustainable source of food. You have to keep scavenging for more and more seeds if you want to keep planting mealwood. And it seems to me that the intent of the developers at this point is to try and get rid of, well, they want to make food a more long-lasting problem, right? Once people figured out that mealwood was such a sustainable food source, food no longer became a concern at any point in the game. In fact, the last time I played this and got up to by about cycle 50, I had like 200,000 kilocalories of food, and I couldn't get rid of it fast enough, right? So they've changed that because they don't want that to be the case anymore. Now, instead, it does appear that blossoms, bristle blossoms, are more important than they used to be. Now, these do require fertilizer every cycle, every day, in order for these to work. So for long-lasting food, now we need to have some fertilizer. That's going to be pretty important. But each one yields 2 bristle berries with 2,000 kilocalories in total, 1,000 per unit. So for every one of these we have that finishes up, we'll have 2 harvests or 2 meals worth of food. And I believe you can get 5 harvests each. So that should be pretty nice. Seeds are contained in the fruit. This is going to become your more sustainable source of food now. They are more sensitive to temperature. They are a bit more sensitive to pressure. And they do require fertilizer. That's the big deal about them. But at least they're pretty. Also, mealwood apparently no longer gives you decor. It actually reduces decor. Now, I didn't notice that until just now. That's interesting. Huh. Yeah, they changed this up a fair bit. So yeah, bristle blossoms are where you're supposed to go. That's your late game solution. Right now, what I'm trying to set up for is going to be a little bit of fertilizer, if we can. So let's go ahead and do that now. If I go to, not decor, if I go to refinement, I can set up some compost. I'm going to go ahead and do this here. I'm going to go ahead and place a storage compactor here, which is going to hold our contaminated dirt. Any contaminated oxygen is going to be contained in this area because one thing they did change in the game is you have access to manual airlocks from the beginning of the game. So we're going to go ahead and place that, try to trap the contaminated dirt here as much as possible, and start building out some fertilizer. That is going to be the idea. Now for this, I'm going to go ahead and set it to organic, but specifically, I don't want all. Can you turn that off, please? Thank you. Polluted dirt. That's the only thing I want this to accept, and it's going to be a level 9 priority. Nowhere else are you allowed to store the contaminated dirt. It has to be in this particular storage compartment, otherwise I am not satisfied. But yeah, so we're going to have this little pile right here, compost, and once we get some fertilized dirt, or sorry, contaminated dirt, we'll dump our poo here, we'll make it into fertilizer, and that's how we're going to have some farming. Now, as far as how to get more contaminated dirt, I mean, at some point, we plan on getting rid of the outhouse, right? At least that was the idea. You'll replace it with a proper lavatory, a proper bathroom, and it'll just flush away the contaminated water somewhere else. Well, now I think there's actually a pretty good case to be made that you should always keep some outhouses and never use a lavatory, because why waste the water if the outhouse works well and gives you more reliable contaminated dirt? You can convert contaminated water into contaminated dirt, right? There is a way to make fertilizer. It's somewhere up here. Fine dining. There it is. Fertilizer maker uses polluted water to produce fertilizer. So you can use a lavatory, flush away the contaminated water, and then use the contaminated water to make fertilizer, or skip that process entirely, save yourself some water and some power, and just use outhouses. Now, which one's going to be better in the long term? I'm not especially sure yet. We're still kind of working on that. I'm still kind of figuring that out. Everything's been rebalanced pretty substantially. Let's talk about some of the other new mechanics that have been added into the game. First off, oxygen overlay has been changed completely. No longer does it simply tell you what things are breathable and, you know, where's the contaminated oxygen and stuff like that. It doesn't do it anymore. Now this is all about air density. So we have high concentrations of oxygen down here, a sufficient concentration in the rest of this area, and it's a little bit lower over here. And the unbreathable sections is where a lot of your carbon dioxide and stuff like that is going to be congregating down here. So yeah, that's changed rather substantially. Now it's not quite as obvious where the contaminated stuff is going to be, so you'll have to kind of pay attention, but this does give you a pretty decent idea of your air pressure, which is a kind of useful feature. I'm not too sure how this changes with your playstyle yet, but it is some helpful information, so I am okay with that. Power grids have been changed a little bit as well, so we still have consumption and production of electricity, and I'll give you some idea what they do. But then we have circuit power, stable, straining, and overloaded, because now if you pull too much amperage or electrical current through a cable, well, then it will just fry. It's going to overload. So if we have, let's say, our battery here and a whole mess of electronics over here that all pull from one cable, odds are pretty good it's going to get overloaded and it's going to melt the copper, right? Which is pretty cool. Now, they did add a way to combat this pretty early on. If we go to research here, under power regulation, they added in heavy watt wire. Carries more wattage than regular electrical wire without overloading. So presumably this is going to cost more materials. Let's take a look real quick and see if we can confirm that. So electrical wire costs 25, and this costs 100. So 4 times the cost in order to have stronger wiring. So we're going to have to pay attention to that. Now we need to be a bit smarter about how we route our power. We may even need to start experimenting with parallel circuits in order for this stuff to work. I'm not too sure yet. Power switches might be more important than ever, but that's going to be interesting. A couple other changes, though. Temperature overlay, nothing's really changed here, except you can see we have some very cold areas over here. Gee, I wonder what those are. Oh, it's the new ice biome. Yay, we have a couple of these. These do not seem very hard to come by, but they have some interesting stuff inside of them. Let's see. I don't know what wolframite is. Never seen this before. Presumably it's a raw metal. But this is some snow, which we can turn into liquid if we warm it up. Here's polluted ice, which I imagine will turn into contaminated water once it warms up as well. Yeah, pretty good area, by the way, if we want to evacuate a lot of energy, a lot of heat into this area. That's going to be pretty nice. So I don't know how this is going to change my playstyle yet, but that's been added into the game, and it looks pretty cool if you ask me. Then we have thermal comfort overlay. Now, this basically has to do with body heat. So in all this area here, you can see that people are going to retain their body heat just fine. They're going to absorb more heat from the environment than they can shed, and that's going to be directly related here to the temperature overlay. So for example, where this battery is right here, where it's producing a reasonable amount of heat, we can see around this area, body heat retention is a little bit stronger. Yeah, if they're standing around this, their body heat is going to go up because they're around hot air. One thing that's interesting, though, is that water is now where you're going to lose a lot of your heat. So, and that kind of makes sense. You're getting into a liquid. It's fairly conductive thermally. You hop into a pool of water, and it's going to sap away a lot of your body heat. The water in this planetoid is cold, right? So, yeah. And that's not... That probably won't matter a ton, but it does mean that no longer do you want to just like dig down into big pockets of water and just kind of keep letting them mine around in here. Eventually they're going to get kind of too cold and want to leave. So again, I'm not too sure how that changes things, but it's interesting, I suppose. Light overlays, liquid pumping, a lot of other stuff here has not really changed, except for my mealwood being very ugly. Oh boy. I did, by the way, trap 2 hatches down here. I'm not too sure what to do with them. I am aware, and I saw a comment on this in the first video, but I am aware that if you let them feed on... They're in a toasty environment, apparently. Interesting. If you let them eat a lot of these materials, they will poop out coal. Somehow they convert that into coal. So if you want to use them, you could create coal generators. What am I going to do with these guys, though? I'm not sure yet. That might be a little bit too min-maxy for me. It's something I'm not too sure I'm eager to do, but... I mean, hey, I'm not opposed. We'll consider it. If any of you guys have any ideas in the comment section below, then please let me know. Otherwise, let's go ahead and mine this area out. Okay, I haven't messed with any algae terrariums yet, mostly because I don't have quite as immediate access to water as I did before, though we probably should eventually fix that. Any plants I really want to harvest? I mean, we could dig our way up and get this bristle blossom. That is worth a little bit of food. Wouldn't be so bad. All right, there are a couple other things that were added into the game as well. So let's go back to the research tab. Besides the heavy watt wire here, we do have, let's see, the aquatic farm tile. Now, I am not sure how this works yet. Grows a single plant when sown with a seed. Must be submerged in liquid. Can be used as a floor tile. So, I don't know if this means that I'm able to plant those, like, kind of in the water like this. And does that mean that there's like automated water production, or it's automatically watering the plants? If so, that's very interesting, because now what you want to do then is have a thin layer of water at the bottom of your base where the carbon dioxide is going to be coming down, and set up some algae terrariums, and they should automatically water themselves, at least in theory. And that's great, because as somebody pointed out in the last video, and they're absolutely right, one of the big problems of the algae terrariums is it does require a lot of time ferrying water to those plants every day. In fact, the first time I played this game, I ended up having so many algae terrariums, not knowing how they worked, that 2 or 3 of my duplicants would spend almost their entire day just running water around and around, which is not a very efficient use of time. So I have not really found any good ways of automating that water production, aside from keeping a water reservoir near your algae production. But now it sounds like there's going to be a tile that's related to that. So I haven't played with this yet. I need to, but that's pretty interesting. In temperature modulation, we also have the textile factory, which allows us to create clothing items. What materials they need to make clothing, I'm not sure yet, but that is interesting. Is this going to make it warmer for them? Probably, I would guess. I don't know. We have the liquid tepodizer, marginally warms large bodies of liquid. must be fully submerged. So this is going to presumably turn electrical energy, like a heat coil, submerged into water, turn that into thermal energy that gets released in that body of water. Now, what I'm interested to see with the liquid tepidizer is if you are able to create steam if you use enough of these. Create a relatively small body of water, submerge several tepidizers, can you get it to boil and release steam? Because that would be very interesting. That would allow us to get a reservoir full of contaminated water, boil it, ferry the steam into another reservoir, and let it condense back down into clean water. Will that work? I don't know. A lot of people have experimented with something like that before, and what they do is they dig all the way down into the magma and then pour contaminated water over the magma, and it releases a ton of steam, and that's how they can get a good source of water. And that's still certainly viable. That might be the only way to do it. I'm not sure if the water tepidizer can do that or not. Now, one thing I do think is interesting, though, is the fact that they've made it so that cables can overheat, that buildings can overheat. What they're trying to do, it seems to me, is stop people from creating insulated rooms filled with hot electronics, pumping tiny amounts of water in and creating steam that way. That was one of the little cheats that people have been using. I say cheat, it's actually just a clever tactic. But creating one insulated room, filling with coal generators, batteries, letting it get molten hot in that room, and pumping small amounts of water, contaminated water, into the chamber so that it boils, becomes steam, and it can ferry it out, right? It seems to me now that electronics can overheat, that's not a good strategy anymore. So clearly the developers are paying attention and trying to make sure that people aren't able to use those kind of exploits the same way that they were before. Now, one other thing, let me think about this one. I just entirely lost my train of thought. Don't you hate it when that happens? I know that I hate it when it happens. All right. One thing we are going to do is go ahead and create a, well, you know what? Let's go ahead and add in a couple of algae terrariums down here. We really might as well. I see some carbon dioxide kind of building up in this area. At least 1 or 2 would not be a bad thing. But I don't think I'm going to do 5, not quite the way that I was before. So let's just place like 2 like that. And I will still place a ceiling lamp kind of like so. And we'll route it up to some power, like so. Okay. Yeah, I know, you're tired. Let's go ahead and dig out this water area, by the way. I want to do this. We're going to dig this area out, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some ladders. I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to dig it straight down. I'm going to try to kind of get all this water together in one giant reservoir that I can use, free this area up, and I'll have one big pool of water. At least I think that'll work. The other thing I could do is, of course, drain a little bit more here and try to get it all down here, too. But I'm not sure how much lower we want to create this. I might want to experiment with this pool of water and see what happens with the submerged stuff. That could be interesting. Now, our algae terrariums are not working right now because, well, we don't have any water. So that's one of the reasons I'm trying to do this right now. Okay, let's take a look at the research. Is there anything else that's new? There is the thermo switch, which is interesting. Automates switching power grids on or off based on the ambient heat. If a room gets too hot or too cold, then they will turn the switch on or off. So I guess this means if you have a room full of electronics and it starts to get too hot, you can set the ambient switch so it turns the electronics off so nothing overheats. Presumably, which I think is interesting. Pressure management, don't think anything's changed there. Sanitation, nothing's changed there. Percolation, combustion. I don't think anything else has changed in many other places here. I have heard that the coal generators might be broken and producing way more heat than they are supposed to, but I have not confirmed that yet myself. Refrigerators are definitely more important than they used to be because certain kinds of food, like lice loaf, is now able to expire, whereas it really couldn't before, so that is going to be a concern. Now, I see some stress starting to build up on a bunch of my guys. What we probably should do is actually start placing a bit of artwork so that when they sleep, they're reducing stress by being in a nice decorative room. Kind of like so, which right now is, well, not that great. It'll certainly help if we sweep a lot of the crap out of the way. No one wants to stand around any of that. What are you talking about? Get rid of all this. We'll just tell them to sweep everything. I don't want to have to deal with all this. Get out of here. Okay, we need to bet some more storage places, though. For now, let's just go ahead and place like 3 right here. Don't really care about that. Now we're cleaning out the outhouse for the first time here, emptying it out, emptying out the contaminated dirt. And what they're going to do is they're going to gather that up, the polluted dirt. It's actually not contaminated anymore, it's polluted. That's interesting. They're going to drop it off over here, the compost, at least presumably. Yep, there we go. Now he's going to kind of shuffle it around. You can see the big gas bubbles. It's releasing contaminated air into the room. But that's why we created an airlock, so it shouldn't be able to get into our base. At least very trace amounts will be able to. Let's go ahead and set these to all kind of like so. And I'm not too worried about what a lot of players will do is they'll go to organic and they'll turn off polluted dirt because you don't want to have polluted dirt in one of these compactors releasing contaminated oxygen into the rest of the room. But that's why I made this a level priority 9 box, so that anytime they do have it, they're going to have to deliver it here. And that's going to save me a lot of effort on that front. So yeah, let's go ahead and clean that area out. Now let's plan out a little bit of artwork. Right, let's go ahead and do that now. I'm going to place decor. Blank canvas. We'll make it out of sandstone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we'll also place a couple of little flower vases like so. The bedroom is going to be gorgeous. Now let's make sure for art, Turner is the only one allowed, and he has creativity level 6. So I don't know if those are going to be masterwork, but they should be relatively good. For priority, did I... Interesting. Can you not set the priority of sweeping anymore? Oh, that is interesting. You can't. Huh. You definitely used to be able to do that. Okay. Well, apparently something has changed there. Okay. Very, very good. We can choose out a new duplicant right now. And you know what? I don't feel too bad about that, but is there anybody here we care about? 10 learning. Good lord. Good lord. I actually saw, when I was shuffling through some duplicants at the beginning of this this playthrough here, someone with like 15 athletics. It was ridiculous. But of course they have very, very high decor expectation. Amphibious, bottomless stomach, a level 1 architect with really nothing remarkable at all, and they eat more food. None of these are really that good, so I'm going to go ahead and reject them all, hope for something better next time, and not use up the oxygen. Let's make sure we sweep up the bedroom area, though, because I really want to reduce stress as much as we can. And let's just go ahead and place a quick cot. Not that I need it here right now, but let's just make sure we don't forget eventually, and it'll also just kind of mean that the room is more filled out. One thing we could have done, of course, is change up the structure of this, move the lamps over, and instead of planting flower vases, we could have placed some sculpting block, and that certainly would have been fine, but... I didn't. It's not a big deal, I don't think. All right, let's go ahead and do this. Let's make sure that research is always set to level 7, and power is a level 6 priority. Slightly more important than everything else once we start running out of current. And actually, right now, this is interesting. It seems to me that sweeping is broken because now that I can't prioritize sweeping, that's the only thing they are doing right now. And I've completely run out of power as a result. Okay. Note to self, then, you really, really do not want to overload on your sweeping tasks anymore. That is very interesting. Okay. One thing I am going to do is going to place a algae deoxidizer somewhere, because right now our atmospheric pressure is way too low, and I think that means that we need to get some more oxygen going. We're going to have to turn some algae into oxygen. So let's go ahead and power those things up. Do something, well, this is actually, the power is kind of already in a good spot here. Do that, do that. And priority level 8. This is very important, so let's make sure we get some more atmospheric pressure, because right now it's so low that our plants aren't able to grow, which means how much longer until these guys aren't able to breathe? I don't know, but oh, they're getting there. They're definitely in some trouble. Interesting. Now what I want to know is why the concentration is so strong down here, but not up here. Not too sure. Oxygen should be rising up, carbon dioxide and all that stuff. You'd think that the pressure would equalize a little bit better than this, but apparently it is not. All right, well, we did finish up a lot of our pumping and stuff like that. So now we have access to the liquid pump, to the bridge, piping, vents, stuff like that. We can create some pretty effective reservoirs later if we desire. Do I desire right now? I don't know. Probably not a huge priority. But let's definitely make sure that they get these deoxidizers going, because I need to increase our air pressure quite a bit more than we currently have. A pressure map mode. I mean, I guess that is just the density overlay, isn't it? Yeah, I guess so. Otherwise, it's not a big deal. All right, fine. Go ahead, wire everything up. Wire it all up. Come on. Let's get pumping in. More oxygen. We need power, for real, though. All right, that's it. Power. We have someone able to do power, right? Yeah, everyone's able to do power. That's a level 9 priority. Someone go do that right now. Thank you. All right. Also, would someone please... We can't prioritize the algae deoxidizers anymore. You used to be able to do that and say, hey, we need to prioritize putting some algae in this because right now they're awaiting a material delivery. Now they don't do that. Fascinating. Yeah, they've changed a few things, and you're just going to have to be paying attention and make sure you don't screw up. Overlays, we can see here that the concentration of oxygen is starting to build up in this area just a little tiny bit. Of course, now we need power again, so let's make sure that people are running pretty much at all times. Down here, we're going to go ahead and place a briar seed. Actually, maybe not here. Cancel that. Let's place it here instead. There we go. Just since that's where people are actually sleeping and stuff like that. As the pressure starts to equalize a little bit more, though. Oh, yeah, look how fast that works. Wow. It'll start to spread a little bit faster throughout this area. One thing I would like to do, if we have access, we do not have gas-permeable tiles. All right, let's go ahead and start researching gas piping. And what gas-permeable tiles will be able to do is you can place them in your floor, and they're just like a little vent. Just kind of an air vent to allow air to kind of flow better throughout the entire room. And since this is kind of a wide open space like so, I actually do think that that's going to be a worthwhile investment. People, I need you to keep running. Please don't stop. Run, run, run as fast as you can. Turner is doing some art. All right, you got anything impressive? Are you creating a masterwork of art? I'd love to see it, buddy. Show us what you got. Come on, any second now. 3, 2, 1. Oh, it's a masterpiece. All right, so he is a high enough level that we're going to get some masterpiece art, which is great because that means that the decor of this room is going to start going up a lot. Which is also that's awesome. It means that people are going to start losing stress a lot more when they go into their bedroom and stuff like that. It's going to be fine. So that's going to help us manage our stress a little bit more. If we needed to, one other thing we could place are some massage tables, and that would be pretty useful as far as just reducing it temporarily. Giving people a back massage, they love it, and they'll feel a heck of a lot better about their lives and the choices they made. Atmospheric pressure for the bristle blossom too low. Interesting. I think we're going to go ahead and dig up into this area and access it. We're going to harvest some muck roots, the bristle blossom, and stuff like that. We'll also dig up some of these briars so that we are able to plant some flowers. Yeah? Yeah. Now, one other thing that I have seen a lot of people do is to get around the kind of buildup of pressure here is they break down all of the walls in these areas here at the kind of sides of their ladders so that there's 3 tiles for the oxygen to kind of flow through and open things up a heck of a lot more. Is that a great idea? I don't know yet. Hey, look, our algae terrariums are working. I'm going to go ahead and place one more right there. There we go. All right. All right. Yeah, one of the major change, by the way, that I did see supposedly for this patch, and I don't think I've actually seen any absolute confirmation that it works now, but supposedly it does. So I haven't had to talk about this before, but water piping. One of the bugs in the game was that the water that got pumped into, let's say, an electrolyzer or something like that, was excessive. You could pump in 10 kilograms of water into the machine, but it only uses 1 kilogram per second, and now we have a problem where too much water is being wasted. Like, the water just disappeared randomly. It was a bug as far as I can tell. Some people have said in this latest patch they fixed that. I don't know for sure if that's true, but it would be good if so. Would certainly love to see that. How is our oxygen concentration? So it's really good up here. It's starting to work its way down here, and you can see the room's getting a little darker. It's not a low concentration. Now it's sufficient. So over time, these 2 deoxidizers by themselves should be able to do their work. The problem is now that the air density is getting kind of up to the max here in the top of this room, every once in a while they kind of shut down. You can see it very briefly as they get max gas power here. I'm going to go ahead and tell our researcher that she is not allowed to do power anymore. Marie, you have to do research instead. I need someone else to be doing this job. We need to keep filling up this battery. It's not enough power. I actually am kind of wondering why we're losing so much power. It feels like we're going through it very rapidly, and maybe part of that is because of the research station. But maybe part of that's also because of the number of lights. Let's take a look at our electricity real quick. Light overlay? No. That's not it. Power. There we go. Minus 10 watts. We're producing 400, minus 10. Minus 100 at the battery. Yeah, the battery's losing a lot of energy right now. You can see how many joules it has stored up, by the way, which is electrical energy. Interesting. Yeah, it's losing it very, very quickly. Ooh, boy. All right, I think we need to upgrade to a bigger battery. That's what I think we need to do. In fact, let's go ahead and deconstruct this now, since I don't want to use this thing, and we will go ahead and set up a proper battery. Stores most of the runoff power, but loses charge over time. Hopefully it is at least moderately more efficient than it was before. There we go. I'm going to deconstruct this electrical wire. We're going to place some new ones like so. Oh, Marie passed out again. Of course she did. All right. I have no idea how long this video has gone so far, simply because I had to kind of speed through a lot, and you know that kind of thing happens, and it's really hard to keep track of that. But can we harvest this anymore? No, we did harvest it already. There's the bristleberries. Let's go ahead and sweep these up. These are unrefrigerated, so they're fresh right now. Eventually, they will spoil. The muckroot does not spoil. The hatches, if I killed them, I think their meat would spoil eventually as well. Very interesting. So do we want to try placing one of these blossom seeds? I mean, I don't really have a lot of fertilizer right now. Let's take a look at our organic. We only have 598 kilograms. And you need 2 kilograms per cycle. Wait, we have 600 kilograms of fertilizer? So are you saying with this one plant box, I have 300 cycles worth of fertilizer? Okay, well that doesn't seem so bad. Let's go ahead and let's go ahead and place down our first. We'll place down our first thing, our first bristle blossom thingy. Can we turn that into anything useful? They did change the icons here a little bit. Mush bars, lice loaf. Realistically, you know this. If we can actually find a way to get our bristle blossoms to be more sustainable, we may never need to use the microbe musher because it doesn't, and that way we can save ourselves a lot of water. In theory. Huh. I'm not sure. I'm going to go ahead and set this back down to a 7. How are we doing as far as our oxygen? Okay, looking a heck of a lot better. Heck of a lot better. We do have a little bit of fertilizer. We can go ahead and store that here. There we go. Make sure that people place it only there. And our battery here... minus 200 watts. Well, in theory, it should. I think in theory it should lose its charge over time a little bit slower. But now we're finishing off cycle 8. We do have a bit of stress kind of building up here. I'd like to see this going down a bit more as I have some more decor. And what we may want to do is go ahead and place a couple of blank canvases, something kind of like this, kind of like this. Place a couple by the eating area since that's a common traffic area. And I guess if we dig this area out, we would be able to place some paintings where there's some research kind of going on as well. I don't know, we'll kind of think about that stuff later, but having a good artist is definitely helpful. Lots of masterpiece works of art is going to be great for trying to improve our decor. You can see this room has very high decor now. So, in fact, yes, their stress is gradually ticking down, which is quite useful. But I'm going to end this video up. Thank you all very much for watching. Lots of new features to kind of figure out. A lot of the cheats and kind of exploits I was telling you guys about are no longer viable as far as I can tell, but maybe some new ones will make themselves available, and if so, I will probably showcase those later. Thank you all very much for watching, though. I do hope you enjoyed. If so, then be sure to hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe if you are new. And I, as always, will see you guys next time.